Good day, everybody. Meteorologist Mark Muller here. As always, I want to thank you for joining me for this edition of Weather Eastern. We're going to get all the severe weather across the Deep South for your Wednesday and the East Coast and Mid-Atlantic for your Thursday. Damaging wind, large hail, isolated tornadoes can be a big bet. We're going to get into see if the wintry weather is going to finally lift across the Northeast and how much springtime weather we will see. And we'll get into the medium range and hopefully some of the longer range as well. See what this is going to occur for the month of April. Let's get into it. And here we go, breaking it down for your Wednesday. I'll have the rest of your forecast later on in the segment as I go region by region as well as day by day. Take a look at Wednesday. Severe weather. There it is. You can see if your county is in that moderate risk. Just a very large zone. I cannot stress enough, this is going to be a very dangerous weather day. So let's break it all down for you in the models. And your big weather day here is Thursday here across the Northeast. This warm front pushing in. This could potentially rotate some of these cells into becoming some isolated tornadoes. Big threat will be damaging wind. We have a marginal threat back here into parts of western and central Pennsylvania, but it's later on in the day, right at Harrisburg, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, up to Binghamton, in the Philadelphia area, maybe as far east as New York City and Atlantic City. We'll see if that marine layer is able to push off to the northeast, and then possible enhanced risk up here in the parts of southeastern Pennsylvania and down here in eastern Virginia. All right, so take a look at this. I wanted to show you this starting right off out of the gate. I don't believe I've ever seen a area of moderate risk this extensive. This is tremendous. This encompasses pretty much most of the Mississippi Valley here, eastern Arkansas, much of Louisiana, pretty much the entire state of Mississippi, western Tennessee, and most of central and western Alabama here. And look at that big enhanced risk as well. And it goes all the way up here into southern Illinois, and then you got slight risk all the way up in here parts of the Ohio River Valley. So this is going to be a big, intense system. And I'm going to show you exactly what component is going to be so damaging for this. If you take a look at the tornado aspects, look at this. This is unbelievable. The amount of area in a 15% chance of tornado. It's possible the Severe Storms Forecast Center could upgrade this to like high risk. It's so rare for this to happen, but look at that, 15% chance of tornado, 10% there into the yellow zone. If you take a look at hail threat this is not the biggest component here. Wind threat is astronomical here. Look at this. This is getting up into the 45% range. When you start to see purples here onto the scale in this hatch zone here, this is a high risk here of damaging wind. This is going to be a big squall line, massive squall line. And if we take a look here, take a look at day 3. This shifts to the east here. So you got a big area of marginal, and then you get these two areas here of the slight risk. All right, taking a look at the NAM here, we are looking at for your Wednesday. So Tuesday night to Wednesday morning, it's still off your screen here. It starts to creep into the picture here into the eastern Texas region. This is right around sunrise, so the line is like a broken line. It's really starting to form here around Linden, Texas, southwestward here. But the big story is, you can see it's still kind of broken here right around noon on Wednesday, but it really starts to fill in across Louisiana and Arkansas here. You see how the northern edge of it really taking effect here. This is like going to be a wall of wind that moves through, and you can see it's interesting to note the most perspective part of it here is in the northern part of Mississippi. That will continue throughout the day, and some of these kind of look a little bit cellular here in nature. So some of these could resemble supercells or embedded supercells. That's where the tornado threat is greatest here in eastern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, and Alabama. Eventually the panhandle of Florida here. Take a look at that line. That is a solid damaging wind threat here. If anything else, and there's those individual cells that could go tornado on us into Wednesday night there. And if you see, you put that into motion, it tries to refire here across the northern part of Florida. So let's get here into the mid-Atlantic, see what it holds for us. We put this into motion, getting that warm front through the mid-Atlantic for Wednesday. And look at that. There's that line here across the southeast, damaging wind, large hail. We continue to progress that to the east here, and then we get a little bit of a refire of some of these cells. But look at up here in the northeast. Let me just back this up a couple frames. This is right afternoon. This is your early afternoon for Thursday. Some of these cells here going pretty strong here across Pennsylvania and then into West Virginia. Some of these could contain damaging wind. Look at that. Binghamton, there's a cell up there right around western Pennsylvania, west of Du Bois and St. Mary's. In Williamsport area, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Altoona, Johnstown area. Some of these could be getting pretty strong, damaging wind, large hail. Some we could have the potential for some of these cells to really go strong on us here. And then going more linear here, this is getting into a couple hours just before sunset here. So this is late afternoon. Look at this, from Binghamton down to Williamsport, just west of Harrisburg. We could be getting some of these stronger cells here, stronger damaging wind, large hail, maybe an isolated tornado as we get up towards the warm front here. Some of these storms that cross into the warm front territory. And then Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, this is right around midnight. Look at this. In the linear fashion continues to these. It does start to weaken a little bit. There we go. DC getting in on the act. But look at that. And as we go here, let's all right, here we go. The other mesoscale models. And let's see, the HRWF here. Take a look at that. There's the line really starting to solidify across eastern Texas, western Louisiana, right around noontime here. So this, watch how this really takes off. This line resembles like almost like a buzzsaw type thing here. This is pretty intense here. And there's those individual cells that resemble supercells. And then you got this really solid line that you know there's going to, see how it's starting to bow out here across Mississippi and Alabama. You know there's going to be some damaging winds in this. And take a look at that. That really starts to solidify across central Alabama here, down into southern Mississippi, and then east to New Orleans here. This is after midnight Wednesday night. So these are going to be nocturnal. So a lot of this is going to be hitting in the dark. Definitely not a good time for this to be occurring. And this model does hold this storms together as it moves through Atlanta. Some of these could remain severe here into Thursday morning, right around sunrise. And this is the last frame here of this model. This still looks pretty impressive here, sunrise Thursday morning. And we continue it up here in the mid-Atlantic. Look at this. Wow. This line goes all the way up into Indiana. So we could have some stronger to severe cells up here in the parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, the Nashville area, down and through. Look at that. That is like a wall of wind here moving through, and it pretty much holds together through these early morning hours. See that in the Atlanta area here? You're still going to get some damaging wind, maybe into some parts of the southern Appalachians here as well. And there's a narrow line. I've been up west of Pittsburgh here, and that's what continues here to the east, and it kind of starts re-energizing here. This is right around sunrise. Take a look at that, just along and east of the Appalachians. This is still pretty formidable, and if this holds together, it will be heading into unstable air here across the mid-Atlantic here into the southeast. All right, so the big component I wanted to really show you with this was the 850 millibar wind in knots here. This is about a mile up on average, so anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 feet. You can see we have, this is right around midnight Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Take a look at this jet here. This is 68 knots, anywhere 61. This is going to increase. This is going to be like a wall of wind here in the atmosphere, and a lot of this is going to get mixed down to the surface. So well ahead, you can see where the line of storms is going to be at this point. Take a look at this. Right ahead of it, we have 60, 70, 80 knots in some cases here across Louisiana. So your winds are going to, I'll show you the surface-based winds momentarily, but you're getting an 80-knot jet here. A lot of this will be mixed down to the surface, especially as you get closer to the line of storms. So you're going to really feel this as this heads to the east during the late afternoon, early evening on Wednesday here, and then into Thursday. Look at this. This has a lot. This is what we're really concerned about, is the wall of wind. That line of storms is going to be able to potentially tap into all of this in the upper levels of the atmosphere and drag this wind to the surface. So you're going to be dealing, take a look at this, and even into Thursday here across parts of Georgia, Florida, and the Carolinas, you still be dealing with some of this potential to bring down some of those stronger winds to the surface here. So taking a look at some of these gusts, watch this. This is surface based on the model isn't so accurate, but this gives us a pretty good idea here. This is in miles per hour. this gets pretty interesting. So yeah, it's not going to show us in some of these thunderstorms how much damaging wind we're going to get, but I wanted to show you all the wind out ahead of this main line. So you're going to start to see some of this. Here's would be the line would be. So you're going to start to see 30, 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts well ahead of the line, a couple hours ahead of time. So you're going to basically get your warning. Look at that. That's pretty intense here. Hours before this line. So when the winds start to really gust here, especially out of the southeast, southwest, south direction, you're going to pretty much have an indicator that rough weather is headed your way here. And look at that. Those gusts getting anywhere from 40, 50, 60 miles per hour here across parts of Mississippi and Alabama. It's just a widespread area. It's going to be a big wind event. Even if you don't get widespread tornadoes, this is a big widespread damaging wind event here, especially as you get closer to that line of storms. As we get up here into the east, the northeast, mid-Atlantic, east coast, here we go for you Thursday, even up into, look at that, wow, eastern Ohio, 40, 50 mile per hour gusts. So there's going to be wind problems with this system all over here, even into, look at that, Pennsylvania, New York. So if you look at this, these are winds mostly outside of thunderstorms for the most part. So a lot of the wind that was down here into the southeast gets pushed up here into the mid-Atlantic and northeast for your Thursday. So look at these wind gusts. That's pretty intense here. 30, 40 mile per hour on average, 45, even some 50 mile per hour gusts at times. And then you have that line of storms push through towards right around midnight here into parts of eastern Pennsylvania and down into eastern Virginia. All right, so let's take a look at the 850 millibar wind, the jet stream. How much of this could come to the surface? How much is up there? About a mile up. Look at this. This is a lot of wind. There's that wind down here into the southeast, but here's a component a lot of people aren't talking about. Look at this big jet up here into Ohio, Pennsylvania. So this is a lot of widespread wind event. But if you do get any of these stronger cells, especially as we head into Thursday here across Pennsylvania, upstate New York, and parts of the Appalachians here, any one of these cells could tap into this damaging wind tier into the upper levels. Look at this. This is 75 knots here in northeast Pennsylvania. So if we start to get explosive thunderstorm development, during the afternoon hours of Thursday, look at that. There's where the biggest jet is coming right overhead. Now it's going to be close because this is right around, we're getting close to noon here. So that's starting, some of the highest winds here are getting a little bit further to the east here than what we'd like to see for explosive severe weather development here. But still, we have the potential. We still have 50, 55 knots here in eastern Pennsylvania towards Philadelphia. That's where we're towards the 78 knots down into portions of Virginia. So we have a narrow opportunity here for some severe weather across the Susquehanna Valley of upstate New York and eastern Pennsylvania here. So we're going to continue to watch this. This could be a pretty busy day here Thursday across much of the mid-Atlantic down into Virginia, Maryland, maybe parts of New Jersey. We'll have to watch it, see how much of the marine layer gets eroded away here. All right, taking a look at the Cape here, convective available potential energy. This takes us into Wednesday, so we start to get an increase in Cape. This is going to give us a good idea of how much explosive development and support we have for these thunderstorms. Take a look at this. Anywhere in the thousands here, 1,000, 1,100 here into Mississippi, in excess of 1,500. So this is going to be really supportive here for our greatest risk of tornadoes. When you get these values between 1,000 and 1,500 joules per kilogram, this is where you're going to start to see some of these thunderstorms that could rotate, especially down into these higher dew point regions as well. Take a look at that, getting up into the 1,000 range, even up into parts of northern Mississippi here, 1,300, 1,400. So we got plenty of Cape here to support this. It kind of fizzles out throughout Thursday morning here, right around sunrise, but then we get a resurgence here across central part of Georgia here, and that continues up through the mid-Atlantic. So let's take a look at that into parts of the mid-Atlantic. This moves here to the east, and look at that. We start to have this narrow band, so we have this potential for over 1,000 here of Cape across central Pennsylvania. This is right around the early to mid-afternoon hour, all across the east here. You're going to have to watch this. We could have some explosive development here getting up into the evening. So eastern Pennsylvania, the southern tier of eastern New York up there into parts of the mid-Atlantic and down into the Carolinas and Georgia again. So watch that. The Cape is definitely going to be strong enough to support some of these damaging wind, large hail events here, and maybe an isolated tornado here as far north as the mid-Atlantic. All right, let's take a look at significant tornado parameters, because I do think that's going to be a thing here with this major line. As you get throughout the day, noon hour on Wednesday here across central part of Louisiana. This is the southern component of the line, so damaging winds further north, but this part of the southern portion of the line, as it heads throughout Louisiana early afternoon and into Mississippi, these values get closer to 3.0, and the closer you are to 3.0, 2.0 is pretty significant, but 3.0, look at that, 3.4 there in parts of southern Mississippi. I am really concerned that some of these these thunderstorms could rotate and produce tornadoes within the embedded line. And look at that in eastern Mississippi. This is towards your evening, late afternoon, early evening. We really start to ramp up this line, and some of these have the potential to rotate. And then we kind of diminish that throughout the night, Wednesday night into Thursday morning across the Panhandle of Florida. Now, if we head into the mid-Atlantic, your day is Thursday. If we put this into motion, take a look here across the Northeast. You do have a narrow opportunity here across parts of eastern West Virginia, the Virginias, and then look at this. Here's a kind of a bullseye location up here closer to the warm front in Pennsylvania. You see 1.3, 1.0, 1.8, 2.0 there near Harrisburg. So we might have the potential for some of these cells within this line start to rotate here, especially in parts of central and eastern Pennsylvania throughout the afternoon and into the early evening hours. And we'll have to watch down here into the Virginia and the Carolinas as well as the day wears on. All right, so I know a lot of you have wanted me to get into more longer term range. I am going to eventually here get into the CFS V2 as well as the JMA models. So hold on to your seat for that. I'm looking at getting into that. I'll just briefly touch here on the CFS, the regular CFS model here. Medium range, take a look. We're going to look as we go through into the month of April. There's that troughiness across eastern North America, and you pretty much see we get into a zonal pattern until about the second week, and then we start to get more of this troughiness across the east here and ridge starting to develop. This is like the precursor. You get another zonal pattern here right around the middle of the month, and watch this. Watch what happens come the 19th. This is crazy. So we start to see these reinforcing shots of colder air, ridge developing in the center part of the country. So this is going to be pretty supportive of all these severe weather outbreaks that are going to continue across the southern part of the continent here. As you can see, we head towards April 28th, the end of the model, getting a little bit more zonal again. All right, so taking a look at Wednesday across the Northeast. This doesn't look right, does it? You're probably thinking this is a major error, because look at this. You have a mix of like sleet and freezing rain here, a moderate variety. Now, Wednesday is going to come in two parts. You're going to start out wintry. In this darker pink zone, you are actually in winter weather advisories for most of the early morning through mid-morning. This is crazy. So we're going to see about 1/10 of an inch of ice on average in these darker pink zones. Now, it's mostly going to be the higher elevations that get the worst of it. So if you're in a valley, you might not see as much of 1/10 of an inch of ice. But the problem is there. So you look at these temperatures, 66 in Erie, 73 in Cleveland, where you're also under winter weather advisory for the early morning hours. Pittsburgh, you're under winter weather advisory. I don't think I've ever seen this before. This is pretty intense. There's a lot of firsts in this segment of the weather. So you're going to quickly warm. Once the ice is over with, you're going to have the sun break out, and these temperatures are going to be allowed to warm. And these southwest winds, 20, 30, 40, 45 miles per hour, are going to be allowed to kick in and blast this warm air out of the Mississippi and Ohio River Valley. So you're going to see some very warm temperatures while we kind of stagnate here to the northeast as this high pressure retreats. So you're not going to see as much ice from the I-81 corridor on eastward of upstate New York and Pennsylvania, because by the time the precipitation reaches up in this region, you're going to be pretty much rain showers. So we'll see some periods of sleet and ice pellets mix in. that sort of thing, maybe some wet snowflakes, but there's not going to be much accumulation here into this lighter pink zone. It's mainly going to be this darker pink you're going to watch. So this warm front's going to push to the northeast, and Thursday is our trouble spot here across the northeast. Take a look at this. So if you're into this light or darker green zone, we do have a marginal risk here into central and western Pennsylvania, but the big threat here is later in the day, especially after 3, 4, 5 p.m. here into the yellow zone from Binghamton, Susquehanna Valley, eastern Pennsylvania, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Harrisburg, maybe as far east as New York City, Atlantic City, and possibly an enhanced risk coming up into extreme eastern Pennsylvania, down and through Delmarva in eastern part of Virginia here. So we're going to have to watch this. There's going to be a lot of instability at work here, so watch out for your Thursday. Damaging wind, large hail, and maybe an isolated tornado, especially in eastern Pennsylvania here. So if we get into Friday, TGIF, yep, reality kicks in. This front blast to the east, some rain mixing with snow here on the backside, especially in the higher elevations of southwestern upstate New York, northwestern Pennsylvania, the Adirondacks, and here into the northern mountains of New England. So you get into the 40s, we're continuing to plummet those temperatures, and then finally Saturday, we have a chance to breathe. We finally have some dry, clear skies, getting right around the seasonable norms for this time of year. All right, so let's recap the southeast here. We'll take you Wednesday through Saturday. There it is. There's the map I showed you at the beginning of the segment. Very, very tough day here across the southeast. Definitely stay tuned to all those watches and warnings. Temperatures are going to be getting well up into the mid to upper 80s here. Dew points well up above 60, 65 degrees in some cases is going to help support some of these really powerful thunderstorms across the region. So if we head into Thursday here, there it is. That shifts to the east, especially up towards the warm front here. Damaging wind, large hail, isolated tornadoes here into the slight to enhanced risk here across parts of North Carolina and eastern Virginia. And then we get into Friday, warm front pushing in from the west, so we start to warm it up. High pressure in control though, so thankfully we get to dry it out for those of you that still have power here across the southeast, because many of you might not be having power with such a widespread squall line that moves across the deep south. We're holding on to 80s here across South Florida, and we get into Saturday. Look at this big old warm front pushing across the Gulf Coast here, and we have stratiform type rain and thunderstorms forming to the north, high pressure retreating to the northeast, temperatures slowly warming into the 70s across much of the deep south here. Rainfall amounts will be over an inch here into this darker green zone. And extended outlook, hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton's upper Susquehanna region of upstate New York, northeast Pennsylvania. We could have the potential there for some sleet pellets mixing in with some rain showers and wet snowflakes on Wednesday, especially in the higher elevations, especially west of Interstate 81, but we're not looking at any major accumulation. One thing to note, we are having a real cold start on Wednesday morning here and then heading up to the lower 40s. The most remarkable thing is Thursday. Look at that, how we head from the 30s as a low and then all the way up to 70 degrees with the chance of strong to severe thunderstorms, particularly between 4 and 8 p.m. right around Binghamton, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area, up to a half an inch of rain likely. That front moves to the east, and Friday we blast in some cooler air down to 47, and Saturday, our only really nice day, sunny skies, heading up towards 50, and then we bring in some rain showers again on Sunday, heading up towards 53. As always, I want to thank you for joining me for this edition of Weather Eastern. Don't forget to my Facebook page, some love, it's MeteoMark. Also Weather Northeastern, and also visit my hurricane page, like that as well, Hurricane Northeastern. Just in time for hurricane season coming up in a couple months. Also, MeteoMark.com, WeatherNortheastern.com, and visit me on Twitter at Weather Eastern.